Hello, Philippines, and welcome to the World News Jam right here on DCRJ and RJTV. My name is Lecain here talking about some of the most interesting stories that happened this week around the world. And with me today is the ever-lovely Lali Tolentino.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
How was your week, Lali Tolentino?
Oh wow, it's a wonderful week, Eric, with a lot of challenges in life as usual. What's
usual.
new?
So many things. Well, I tell you, Lali, a lot of things happen around the world this week. And unfortunately, a lot of those things are bad, but somehow we try and look at them in a good way. But this first story, I don't know how to look at. We live here in the Philippines, and it's beautiful in the Philippines. There's so many beautiful places here in the Philippines. And sometimes I go to certain parts of the Philippines, and I go, you know what this reminds me of? Hawaii.
Yes.
And Hawaii is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. They have these massive, beautiful beaches. They have surfing. However, this week, the beauty there has been horrible because they have wildfires sweeping over the island. Actually, these are massive wildfires. They've been speculated. However, they're not really sure why they're having these wildfires, except the National Weather Service had warned them earlier that there were high winds and dry conditions, and there are 6 active volcanoes.
Wow.
So you just kind of put that all together, and the possibility of having a massive wildfire. I've been watching the videos to these fires, and they are just absolutely unbelievable. Now, the last I heard, 89 people had been found dead.
No.
And you said that you had found...
Now it's already up to 93 as of this afternoon, so it went up again. So
93.
it might. I'm sure it will go up. Still.
I'm almost positive that it will go up again because they were saying that there's tons of buildings that they have not searched.
Yes.
And the problem that they had there was the fire was moving faster than people could run. And if you can imagine how fast a fire would have to be moving, that you're running and the fire is catching up with you and surpassing you. A lot of people were in their homes going to wait it out, and then they realized they couldn't wait it out, and then they got in their car and took off in their car, and they couldn't outrun the fire. Wow. And it was getting to the point where the cars were driving, the fire was overtaking them, people were stopping the cars, getting out of the car and running and jumping in the ocean.
Wow.
And just letting the cars sit there and burn because the car could not outrun the fire. So right now they are searching for missing people. They have cadaver dogs out there running around trying to see if they can find who is not been accounted for.
Yeah, and the sad part of that, Eric, the place alone. In Hawaii, one of the most beautiful places in the world. Why did this happen? And I mean, I was watching television and I said, is this real or is this a movie?
Yeah. That's what you see when you look at, and they show the aerial shots. This is, Maui Island before, and this is it after, and it's just been decimated. It's just, it's completely black, and everything is like, it just, when a fire is that big, houses are reduced to nothing.
Yeah.
So, and they had other problems too. People kept saying, why did the alarm system not work? Now, Hawaii has one of the biggest alarm systems on the planet. Obviously, they're open to the Pacific Ocean, so they're open to tsunamis and tidal waves and so forth. So they have this very, very sophisticated alarm system, and it did not go off, or nobody set it off. And the only thing, the way that they had to warn people of this fire was telephone and television. But the phone service didn't work, and the television service didn't work. So people are in their homes and they don't know that the fire is literally right on the other side of the mountain. And that's why a lot of people got in trouble. They had cars just riding through neighborhoods going, get out now. And a lot of people just waited just a little too long, and they just couldn't outrun the fire.
Yeah, because you can imagine, this is one of the things that I'm really scared of: fire and earthquake.
Yeah.
Because they said, okay, they can rob your house, they can steal everything in your house, because you still have the house, even if they take out everything. But when you get fire, so
It
nothing
steals your
happens.
house.
Yeah,
It takes your house. In fact,
yeah. I mean,
they said 2,207 structures were damaged or destroyed completely.
yeah,
2,170 acres were burned, something they estimate maybe $5.5 billion in damage. I mean, it's just hard to even fathom $5 billion in homes.
yeah.
And I know Hawaii has some expensive homes, but that's a big,
The
that's a
other
big number.
Yeah, the other things. What about the documents inside the house? Like you have your passport, maybe your bank account,
I
and all
know.
that.
I
I mean,
mean-
those are the things that, how are you going to find them? Of course, what if also the bank got burned and all that? So what's your record?
I know.
You have nothing.
Hope they're using the cloud. Hoping they're using a cloud drive at the bank.
I know. I don't know. I really cannot imagine that. I hope it will not happen again in any part of the world.
I mean, but nothing, you can lose all your possessions, but nothing's more important than your life. And I know that, I feel bad for a lot of the families that lost family members there, because Hawaii is a very, very close, it's very much like the Philippines. Very, very
Yes.
close-knit families there. And I've been watching all the videos of, this one man who lost his father, and another one who lost his brother, and they were just so distraught to
Yeah.
watch them. It was just really, tough to watch, because one day everything's fine, and the next day this fire
Yeah.
just blows in and just decimates the entire Maui Island.
Yeah, you can imagine that. You're so happy today. You're celebrating, and the following day things change. How devastating that can be. I mean, how are you going to handle it? I mean, emotionally, and so many things.
And you just, isn't it weird? You just don't think of Hawaii as having a fire.
Yes.
It's just kind of weird that an island in the middle of the Pacific would have a fire like that big.
Yeah.
It just seems a little strange. California, I understand. Brazil, I understand. These massive wooded areas, but this is just an island in the middle of the Pacific. It just seems really strange. But like I said, it happened to be very high winds. Everything was really dried out, and there are active volcanoes, and all it takes is one ash to fly up out of a volcano, and they said, most fires are started by humans, but second is lightning. So I can just imagine, having an active volcano in the middle of your island. So I hope they get through this okay there in Hawaii. And speaking of that, I wanted to talk about another story, which is not that big story, but it should be. And this is about the corridor that's between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And I know it hasn't been a lot on the news, but this is this area between Eastern Europe and Western Asia. Now, Azerbaijan has been, what they've done is they set up a blockade along the corridor because they've been fighting with Armenia for how many decades? Like forever. And the problem was, there's some Armenians that got caught up on the wrong side. And now they have nowhere to go. And this has been going on for months now. They have been caught up on the wrong side. And of course, the issue is, where do these people get food and medicine and baby formula? Because the military on the other side is not going to give it to them. And so this week, finally, former International Court chief of prosecutor there, he made a statement that this should be considered genocide. He goes, no, there's no crematoriums, there's no machete chopping, but it's almost the same thing, because these people are being held there and they're being starved to death.
Wow.
And this is why I thought it was such an interesting story. And the UNHCR, which is the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, sent out a press release asking Azerbaijan to end this, and I'm trying to read the quote here, uphold its international obligations to respect and protect human rights. And get this, they called on the Russian peacekeeping forces in the region to protect the corridor, which I find very ironic. I don't know why. But there is a lot of people there. A lot of more people than you would think. 2,000 pregnant women, 30,000 children, 20,000 older people, 9,000 people with disabilities, and then all the other people. So you're looking at wiping out an entire generation of Armenians.
Wow.
So I just wanted to mention that because I thought it was an interesting story. We've talked about Armenia before. We've talked about Azerbaijan before. And the fact that they don't like each other and they're fighting over a little piece of land.
My goodness, I mean, that's kind of crazy because okay, because it's in Armenia right now. If you happen to understand also, even people are regular people are fighting over a property, right? I mean, this is just one example of fighting for a territory, fighting for your rights, fighting for whatever. So I don't know when the fighting in the world will stop.
I mean, it's okay. All right, they're fighting over land. Yeah, countries fight over land. China's fighting with India over a tiny little piece of land. But here, a lot of innocent people have been caught up in this argument between these two countries, and they're just stuck. And they don't need to be stuck. They could open up the corridor and just let them leave, but they won't. And I guess there are some, this is what happens in these kind of situations. And so those people are just, now it's a human rights issue. There's no way to get in and to help them. And they're starving to death. And so that's why, the UN is now pleading with the other country to please let them go.
Yeah, I don't really understand. I don't know the leader.
Yeah, I mean, that's why the guy came out and said, listen, we can talk about this forever, but this is genocide. This entire, it's a whole race of people from that part of Armenia are going to all die. And so if we don't do something, you guys need to do something. And so now they're finally speaking out a little bit more and they're doing something about it.
They need to do something, otherwise I'm going to call Superman to be in the middle of that problem.
When the aliens come down, everybody's in trouble. Speaking of issues that are going on right now, Ecuador. Everybody knew we were going to talk about Ecuador today because the presidential candidate, Villavicencio, was at a campaign rally, giving a speech. And he was the candidate who's going to bring down the powerful mafia in Ecuador and help people not to live in fear anymore. And he's this really hard-pressing journalist who's now turned politician. And a lot of people thought he was going to win. There was a possibility to win, and he wanted to bring down one of the most dangerous groups in the world. And he said in a recent speech, see if I can get this quote just right, "Listen well, they have told me to wear a vest, but here I am in my sweaty shirt, damn it. You are my bulletproof vest. I don't need it. You are a brave people. I am brave like you. You're the ones that will take care of me." And then he said, at the speech he was, "Come, here I am. Let the drug lords come. Let the hitmen come. Time for threats is over because here I am." And after that speech, while getting in a car, they shot and killed him.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. If you're a politician or even if you're running for a position in the government, especially, as presidential candidate, if you say something like this, I mean, of course, a lot of people will sympathize with you. And of course, they're going to like you because, maybe people are tired already of, what's happening in Ecuador, even other countries, I think now. But, the people around you and, or maybe the opponent, I mean, people on the other side will be the one to do something like that. The worst part is that he got killed because of what he says.
I mean, he's basically egging on some of the most dangerous people in the world. I mean, you've got Colombia and Peru on their border. You got the Mexicans coming into there. I mean, some of the biggest drug cartels in the world, some of the most dangerous people. And he is saying, okay, we're not going to tolerate this anymore in Ecuador. And when I become president, I'm going to get rid of all you. Now, his sister thinks that the government was responsible for his assassination because there are so many in the government. One of these things was, I'm going to get rid of the corruption in government because obviously when the Ecuador country switched over to dollars, so their economy is going to be based on dollars. So that's like an open season for the cartel to come in and be able to sell more drugs, launder money, so many things. And the only way they could do that was to pay off some politicians, you know. And so now he's coming in saying we're going to get rid of all the politicians that we already know are being paid off. So it stands to reason that possibly she could be correct, that the government might have been behind this. Now they captured 6 of them and killed 1 of them, but you know, the investigation. In fact, the FBI from the United States has said that they will come down and help with the investigation.
Wow. You know, if you really want to live longer in this world, don't be a politician.
Don't be a politician.
Yeah, that's my advice. Well,
and if you are a politician, don't dare drug dealers.
Oh my God, yes, because they'll be.
I think that is a problem.
Yeah, and because they are very powerful because they have the money, and sometimes you don't even know who they are.
Yeah,
but they're powerful.
And the fact that, you know, this was not just one drug cartel that's in Ecuador now. It's being overrun, which I understand why this man is running and why he's so popular, because people live in fear in Ecuador now. It used to be a fairly peaceful country. I mean, they had their issues. They had what we talked about was a couple of months ago. They had the big riots there, but they you know, the people are now, you know, living in fear because they're being overrun by drug cartels. They're everywhere, and so this guy was a guy that's going to bring it down, and. Wow. So now they have brought him down with, I think he got shot 6 times.
Wow.
So he was in the car. I watched the video. It shows him getting in the car. And he was surrounded by bodyguards. And they put him in the car, closed the door, and then all the shots rang out.
Well, if they plan to kill you, they know the strategic location.
Yeah, a car is the most dangerous place to be.
Yeah, I mean.
And he refused to wear a vest.
That's the thing. He's trying to show to people that, hey, I'm not scared. I'm not afraid of anybody. Yeah, come and get me. Yeah. What happened? You know, so you should not do that. You don't even have to dare people because they know what they're going to. Well, it's already done. I mean, he's dead.
I mean, you know, speaking of someone who daring us to come get him, Donald Trump is back in the news.
Oh, again.
What a segue. Speaking.
Favorite guy.
Speaking of, you know, I remember one time I told my mother, who was had Alzheimer's at the time, I said, you know, Donald Trump is president, and she goes, nobody's killed him yet. My silly mom. Anyway,
rest in peace, mother.
But speaking of Donald Trump and violence, you know, Donald Trump has been saying a lot of violent rhetoric. I can say about the people prosecuting him. He's being prosecuted the 3 times indicted and probably 4 times by the end of next week. So, you know, Donald Trump has been writing on his social media page, posting, you know, that, you know, they're coming after me. That means they're coming after you. And somebody needs to do something about this. Well, this man decided he was going to do something about it. And he said he's going to take care of business. So he decided that when President Biden was in town in Utah, I believe, he was going to assassinate him.
Yes, yes.
And the New York prosecutor, Alvin Bragg, and maybe even the DOJ head, Merrick Garland, and even maybe the New York Attorney General, Letitia James. He's going to get them all. Everybody that's going after Trump, he's going after them. Now, how did we know that this guy was going to do this? Well, first thing, on Facebook, he posted, I hear Biden is coming to Utah, digging up my own ghillie suit and cleaning the dust off my M24 rifle. Do you know what a ghillie suit is?
No, really?
I didn't know what it was either. I had to look it up.
What's
it's
that?
One of these military outfits that you get and you put it on, and it has like grass on it.
Oh, okay.
So you can hide with your sniper rifle.
Oh my goodness.
So you just see your eyes, with all the grass hanging around. Anyway, I didn't even know what that was. And he also said perhaps Utah will become very famous this week as the place that a sniper took out Biden the Marxist.
Jesus Christ.
So, and then he posted pictures about his guns and had, dozens of other violent posts on his site. So the FBI paid him a visit. Now, how did the FBI know that he was going to try and assassinate the President of the United States? Facebook. The guy said that's what he was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everyone's go, how did the FBI know? That's how they knew. Everybody knew. He posted it right on Facebook. So the FBI came and they told him that, you can't threaten to assassinate the president. Come with us. And he's like, I'm not coming with you. And they're like, you better come with us. He's like, I'm not coming. And they shot him and killed him.
Wow.
He's dead.
Oh, well, that's a problem. If you're planning to do something not so good, don't put it in Facebook.
Don't put it on Facebook. But secondly, I mean, the thing is that, in these indictments that are going on, they're telling Trump that he can't talk like this. He can't threaten the judge.
Yes.
And he can't threaten the prosecutors because something is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And now that woman in Georgia that's going to indict him probably by next week, they have tripled the guards. Mm-hmm. Nobody can leave and go home without a guard. I mean, it's insane. And it's all because of the things that he's been writing. So, I mean, this past week, the judge was telling him in the case, the January 6th case, you can't do this anymore. You're lawyers. You got to tell him you can't be doing this anymore, or we're going to have to incarcerate him until the trial comes up. Now, will they ever put Trump in jail?
We don't know yet.
Only how funny would that be? But it goes back to. I mean, there's another issue that came out this week where. A couple of ex-Republican officials are speaking out about things that are in the indictment. There's things in the indictment that we knew, but we really haven't talked about that much. And one of the big ones was the fact that Trump had an idea that if he could overturn the election, illegally overturn the election, obviously, we've talked about how he was going to do it, what his plans were before, but if he was able to pull it off, there's going to be people protesting because Biden won by 7.5 million votes. So, of course, people are going to be protesting in the streets. So his idea was if people protest, we'll have the military break out the tanks. We'll call up a law that they made back in the 1800s. I believe it was in the 1800s, which the Insurrection Act. So if, they make a law and people start shooting because of slavery and so forth, then we can send the military down and we can fight against our own citizens. That was then. He's going to bring out the military to kill U.S. citizens. So this was really close. This is really close to happening. And the only reason they say that it didn't happen was he presented it to his lawyers, his White House lawyers, not the crazy ones that were giving him all these ideas. And his lawyer said, listen, if you do this, we are all resigning right now. If you call up the military and say, we want you to roll out tanks, not the National Guard, the military, to set up shop in all major towns, and anybody that protests, we shoot them. If you do that, we're all resigning right now. And so he backed off. But how close was that to happening? So that's part of this indictment.
Okay. I am really curious about this, military, police. All these people military, they have their own job, okay? They are there to protect the people and the country. Now, if you're the president and you're going to give an order, hey, you military, let's do this, let's do that. But where is your loyalty? Isn't it supposed to be in the Constitution? Not the president, the Constitution. That's what I believe. Yeah. But then, I am just wondering, because here we Filipinos, we are not the superpower people. We are not those intelligent people in the world. And like I said again, I always look up to America. But I think things changed already in my mind because what I have seen in the past, because how Donald Trump run your country. I'm sorry, because I'm not an American, but then I can see this, which is for me. Why? Why is this happening? America, so you should set us a good example. We should look up to you all the time because you guys are doing good for so many years. You guys are not perfect, but there are things that we like. There are things that you're doing, you're doing the right thing and you're helping. You have a lot of allies in the world because you guys are so friendly. You're so helpful. And
what we would never
change.
do is ever turn our military on its own people. And that
Yes.
happens in so many countries around the world. But that is something, it's almost the glimmer of hope in that the United States would never, ever resort to something like that. And the fact that in our country, you cannot send the army to go against its own people unless you, there's a law that was made back in the 1800s where you can do this. And you would have to go and find that law. They had to go and find that law and say, okay, listen, this is the only way we can do this, is we're going to have to, resurrect that whole, Insurrection Act, that we can, if people go against Trump, that we have the ability to fight them. Mm-hmm. And that's where it got scary. That's where his own lawyers were like, his own lawyers, who are hardcore conservative Republicans, had to say, all right, that's enough. Mm-hmm. If you do this, we're out. Yeah. And finally he backed down. But that was what they were planning to do.
Yeah, well, that is sad, but I don't know. And still, he's still number one in the survey. Still a lot of people would like to vote for him.
A lot of people. A lot of people want
to
vote
for him. I know, and I don't understand. And I've talked to some friends who are Republican here, Filipinos and Americans. My goodness, they're just watching one news. They're just following what they're saying, and I said, "Oh my God, that's why they don't balance." In this kind of, in our own personal life, we should balance everything. Even also in politics, when you are electing, you're going to elect your leaders. You really have to choose the good one, the bad one. I don't know, nobody's perfect there, but choose the one who can lead the country and the people. I mean, you cannot just be, making a deal with other countries that will put your country down, right?
Yeah. Well, I can go on and on about that.
Yeah, I mean,
I
just don't understand.
It's true, and here again, we on this show, we are never going to say, don't vote for Donald Trump.
Not.
We're never going to say something like that. But we are going to tell you why, because Donald Trump keeps coming out and he keeps saying, these prosecutors, I never did anything wrong, this is a witch hunt, so forth. But that's what this indictment is about. Mm-hmm. That's one of the parts of this indictment, and that's why these Republican officials are coming out and say, look what he was trying to do. Mm-hmm. And like I said, these are not liberal Democrats. These are his own people. Mm-hmm. This was actually, this one guy was the associate of the what's his name? The guy that was not Secretary of State, but the guy that was Trump's right-hand guy.
Is it Duncan?
In the cabinet.
Representative Duncan? No.
No. But it was that, one of the Trump's main advisors mm-hmm. is now saying this, is what I'm trying to say. I can't remember the guy's name, it slipped my mind, but it's just the fact that he is a conservative Republican, and the people that are going to be speaking in this indictment, that are going to be in this trial, that Trump is not supposed to. He's not supposed to come out and say on social media, "Hey, kill these people." They told him he can't do that anymore, even though he says he has the right to do that. He has free speech. But anyway, the judge said an interesting thing: you don't have absolute free speech. So that was an interesting thing that she said today, but of this past week. But anyway, this is where we are. People are asking, why are they indicting him? Here is why. That's what part of the indictment was for, was based on things like that. Mm-hmm. And speaking of, going to jail, I didn't want to segue too fast, but who's in jail now?
Who?
One of our favorite guys on the show, Sam Bankman-Fried.
Oh.
Who I cleverly love to call Bankman-Fried. And he is
Did he pray himself?
He's in the. This shows the two-tier system. You know, they're always complaining. The Republicans are always complaining about the two-tier system. They're not treated fairly. Actually, they're treated. If you look at the two-tier system, it actually looks like they're treating Trump more fairly, because if Sam Bankman-Fried is in the exact same situation, he's indicted. He's out on bail. He's out on a $250 million bond. Now, if you don't know who Sam Bankman-Fried is, he is the head of FTX, which we have spoke about on this show numerous amounts of times. He was the CEO of the crypto company, and he took depositors' money and used it to make his investors' accounts in another company look better.
Oh, okay.
Can't do that. That's against the law. And so when word got out that this is what he was doing, everybody rushed in and took their money out. And so in a matter of days, a matter of 24 hours, his multi-billion-dollar company went to zero, and he got arrested. So because you can't do this, and his only way to stay out of jail was to follow what the judge said. You have to stay at home in your parents' house, because he's a young guy. Stay at your parents' house, and you can't manipulate or call or try and influence people that are going to be in the trial. And so it turns out that he tried contacting this one witness who was appearing against him, and he tried to do it on a virtual private network to subvert the monitoring system. So that person that he tried to contact was his ex-girlfriend.
Oh.
Because his ex-girlfriend knows everything.
Everything.
She was the head of the company that he was giving the money to make their investors think that they were doing well when in fact they were not. And so instead of spending the next 15 years of her life in jail, she has decided to take a plea deal, and she turned on her boyfriend. So her boyfriend is trying to, figure out a way to get her not to do this. So one of the things he's trying to do is intimidate her, like he gave some very personal information about her to the New York Times. And you can't do that. You can't do that, Sam. That is against the rules. So they brought Sam in. They asked him about it. Sam was, and they put him in handcuffs, and now he is in the Brooklyn Detention Center.
Oh, in Brooklyn?
Awaiting trial. Awaiting trial.
Oh, my God.
So it's set for October. So he may sit there until October. Because he did like Trump did. They told Trump, you can't do this, you can't do that. And he just went and did it. He blogged, he tweeted, he did live interviews, all these things that he's not supposed to do. And they say, when you're in this particular thing, don't say anything.
Yes.
Don't say anything. And there's, like I said, he's in jail now. And they haven't put Trump in jail yet, but he's teetering.
Isn't it, Eric, when you get caught, right? You get a warrant of arrest, you have the right to remain silent, something like that. So,
and you should.
You should. And you don't say anything, because anything that you say can be used against you.
Yes.
But what is he doing? I mean, the former president.
I
don't understand.
The former president is a nightmare for a lawyer, because I'm sure. Don't you know some of the lawyers are like, oh no, what did he say today?
Yeah.
He's like just testing. How far can he push it? How far can he push it? And some of the tweets or whatever, the posts that he put out on his social media site about, if you're coming for me, I'm coming for you, that kind of stuff, the threats that he's making. The fact that the prosecution has to drag them all into court again and say, listen, we need a protective order against this guy. And the judge they granted the protective order. So now what's Trump going to do now?
Yeah.
He says, they're not going to stop me. I'm going to continue to speak. Really? You're going to end up with some good cuffs on you, buddy, if you don't keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that he's doing, he can say whatever he wants, but the problem is when he's able to see some of the things that are in the indictment, and he knows now who's turning on him. He knows who's been speaking to the
prosecutor,
to the prosecution, to the grand jury. He knows who's been testifying in front of the grand jury, and he can read what they said.
Oh, for sure.
So now he's like, you can't talk about those people.
Yeah.
And he just can't hold himself back.
Yeah, no.
I got to tell you.
That's why. Can you
Keep
not
a secret?
Yeah. Can you not? horses for a while. I mean, this is something serious.
Can't hold his horses.
Nobody's above the law.
Well,
Nobody.
Here's what I think, Lolly. He can't win. He can't win this case. They got him dead. There's no way they would bring it to indictment unless they had him dead to rights. So he's got to win in public opinion.
Yeah.
So he's got to get the public to think these people are all corrupt.
Yeah. That's why he's doing that, because he needs sympathy with people. And I saw some people being interviewed. They said they don't believe on those. The cases of Trump. They don't agree to what's happening. I said, oh my God, there's an evidence.
He came out and said the Attorney General in Georgia that's about to indict him, that she had indicted a rapper before, and then he goes, I heard she had sex with him. I don't know. It could be. That's what I heard. It was just making up stuff. And so now people are like, well, yeah, maybe she's really bad. And they're not going to take the time to go and realize that all this stuff that he's saying, none of it's true. But yeah, I mean, that's why the judge is like, well, you know what, you can't. And she had to make a statement this week and say that, listen, it's not, they're not Republican or Democrat. They are just, we do a job. This is what we do.
Exactly. There's no party, and what they're doing is they're trying to put color, like, because they're siding with a Democrat. I don't think so. If you're a lawyer, if you're a prosecutor, if you are, because you have your own job, you are not a politician. Politician, they can say this and that. Okay, you have your free speech, whatever you call it, but you don't have. I mean, if I am the lawyer, I'm going to tell my client, Eric, shut up. Don't say anything, okay? Because we need to wait for the right time for you to say what you want, but not here, not in public, not in social media. I mean,
Because people like you and me, Lolly, would be in jail if we said those
exactly.
things. If we threatened the prosecutor with killing him, we would be in jail.
Definitely. But
anyway, in any case, we've spent a lot of time here on this subject. But speaking of things that we need to spend time on, this AI thing, Lolly, that is now the way of the future. And I've been talking about AI here on the show because I want to get it into people's mind, because it is the way of the future. It's the thing that's going to come next. Very soon, computers are going to be able to figure out everything. And the problem is that, when you're young, I mean, you learn to write and you learn to draw and, you learn, things like from looking at other humans. You learn to write from your teachers. You learn to draw. You copy it. You look at look at this famous artist, and then you're inspired.
Yes.
You look at his. Well, AI is able to do that at a very high level. Same thing as us, but people think it's different when AI does it, because AI can look at a whole bunch of photos, and you say, I want a drawing that looks like this, but not that, but looks like that, like as if that person was drawing it, and it can do it. So if you tell it to do that, and it looks at some artist's work and gets the idea and the inspiration from that, does that artist get something for it? Should they be allowed to do that? Should they be allowed to take artwork and then make it their own, make the computer make it their own? Because they can look at a million different pieces of artwork in a very short amount of time and then make a drawing in a very, very quick amount of time. We don't need to hire artists anymore. We don't need to hire writers. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because this week they put out a piece of software called Glaze. And Glaze is a piece of software which uses AI, but it stops AI from looking at your picture. So the AI is stopping the AI. So now we have AI fighting each other to make sure that they don't steal your artwork.
My goodness. Sometimes I don't understand this because, for example, that artist alone, okay, I love paintings, okay? I admire all the beautiful paintings that I see. I'm an artist myself. So now, if that AI thing will be the one to do what I'm doing, so I'm going to lose my job.
Yeah,
I'm going
and it will do it better
my
than
business.
you. It will do your style, your artwork better than you.
Exactly. So that's why I am, yeah, maybe that's the future, but what would be the future of us? Like, we being an artist, and that thing, that technology will just make it, well, easier. Of course, you could do it in a few seconds, or maybe, I don't know, but I don't know. It's just like.
It's the same thing as this problem they're having in Hollywood. And there's a piece of software now, there's another thing about this, where you're a model, and they hire you for $200 a day. And then they have another thing that they need to do, but they just need your face. They don't need the rest. So they can just take your face and just put it over here. Or they can take you out of this pair of clothes and put you in that pair of clothes, and they don't have to pay you.
Yeah.
So where's the line in that? Now, there's a piece of software that's also AI generated called 𝗡𝗲𝘄𝘀, which can stop them from doing that. It stops the AI. It messes up. It looks at the pixels, which we can't even see. It goes in, it looks at every single pixel, and what it does is it messes up the AI from being able to see all the pixels. Anyway, so, but that's an issue. That's an issue. If you are a model or an actor, and, like I said, you're a model and you're doing this outfit, and they go, oh, we need him for another shoot, but we don't need to pay him. We can just get AI just to take him out of that outfit and put him over here. And it's amazing what it can do. It's not just taking him, like the pose that he's doing, but it can take different facial expressions, different body movements. It can literally change everything, except it's the same guy.
I think there is a problem somewhere there, but I don't know yet. But maybe the thing in the future.
There's a problem somewhere. I'm just not sure what it is
yeah,
yet.
I can see there's a problem. Like I don't know. Let's talk about it in the future.
Let's keep this going. I mean, right now, let's move over to something that you may have a very interesting opinion of. China did an interesting thing this week. They do an interesting thing every week, but they're proposing new measures to curb the amount of time that kids can spend on their phones. And so they're now taking aim at internet addiction to try and cultivate good morality and social values among minors in China. So the proposal they have, the Cyberspace Administration of China, which we all know, because China has very strict internet regulations there. So on Wednesday, they're going to require all mobile devices, apps, and app stores to have built in a minor mode, which would restrict daily screen time to a maximum of 2 hours, depending on the age group that child is in. And these restrictions, if approved, would mark an expansion of existing measures rolled out in the recent years in Beijing, and its aims to limit screen time for kids and reduce their exposure to undesirable information.
Okay.
So no one under 18 can use their phone between 10 p.m. and 6 p.m. Kids under 8 can only use their phones for 40 minutes a day. 8 to 16, only 1 hour, and then 16 to 18, only 2 hours. And every child, once they use their phone, after they use their phone, they're supposed to rest.
Okay.
They need to take a rest.
Okay.
So interesting, isn't it? What China, like, they want to make sure that kids do not spend too much time on their phones.
Actually, that's a good idea for me. Personally, because because now you can see kids, what are they doing? They're all holding their cell phone, they're playing games and everything. It's like, oh my God, you cannot even tell them, hey, come on guys, get the trash and throw it outside or whatever. You cannot ask them to do things anymore because they are so focused on the cell phone, or I don't know, computer, laptop. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a good idea. I don't know. This is just my personal.
The only problem I see is that, like in the United States and here in the Philippines, when your kid is crying and whining and continues to keep bothering you, you just take your iPad and just stick it in front of him. And then you're good. You don't have to worry about it anymore because the kid is,
yeah, because they get used to it. Because
it's good for hours.
Yeah, but Eric, before we don't have that.
No, we did. You know what we had to do before? We had to go outside.
Yes.
And people say, why'd you go outside? Why did you stay inside? Because we weren't allowed to come in the house. But after school, like you come home, you put your books down, you go outside. We don't want you in the house. You go outside, and you come in before it's dark. That's it.
Yeah, there's some rules before of our parents. Every house, they have their own rules, right? But then We don't have computer. The only time Eric, the only time that I learned how to use computer was already in the late 90s.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't even remember when I guess it was in the 80s actually for me, but I mean, the thing that's interesting is before, when we were kids, computer was a luxury and it was a big, massive
Yes.
machine, and it did very little. It does addition and subtraction, but now it does everything you could possibly think of. And it's all about how many likes I can get and who's doing that and what's doing it. So the Chinese government decided that they don't want to have this in their country. I mean, right now, China doesn't allow much. It doesn't allow kids to see very much of the Western society on their phone anyway. They don't have TikTok in China, even though it's a Chinese company. They don't have TikTok. They have a abridged version of it. And they don't have YouTube, and they don't have all these other things that we have, that we can just sit there and scroll. I call it dead scrolling, because you look like you're dead. Your eyes don't move, you just scroll like you're dead.
Yeah, like...
I think that, part of it has to do with China needs, they have control over their people. They have control over their internet. They have control over everybody's machine. This is an interesting thing, which leads me to another story, which I wanted to try and get to today before we run out of time. And that is, China has so many people. They do. I mean, what is it?
Largest population in the world is China.
Actually,
billions.
Right now, they're second. They used to be first. They were always first.
Oh, are they second now?
Until India started making babies, and so India has now supposedly surpassed them a little bit. But still, they have a lot of people. And for years and years and years, what has China been really good at with its people? One thing, controlling its people, and secondly, having a lot of information on its people. And this information has turned out to be very, very valuable. Because one of the things, like in Western countries, is people have the right not to have the government have information on them. Everybody wants to, the government to be as small as possible and not know anything about me and what I'm doing. But China, they know everything about everybody. And if you think about it, what is one of the most valuable things you could get from having a lot of people? Well, all that data, that means that things like curing cancer or curing old age, because you have the genetic information for billions of people. And it's a gold mine, and China knows it's a gold mine. And so this interesting story that came out today is, China has been pouring billions and billions of dollars into being the preeminent force in genetics and genetic encoding, and currently they have a treasure trove of genetic data that they have collected from 1.4 billion people over years. And everybody would love to have this, because Western scientists, they don't have it. These vast amounts of data and these huge biobanks and research centers that they have in China. But China has made a decision. This week they made a decision. The issue is they have all this data, but they don't necessarily have the talent. And they know that they don't have the talent. Now, so they want to make sure that foreigners do not get a hold of this data, which is different than Western countries. Western countries, they give out the data. They have open policies because they're trying to figure out a way to get the cure of cancer. So, they get other countries, anybody that wants to help. But China is not the same. China's thinking about, the bottom dollar line on this. Not so much helping mankind, but how valuable it would be if they are the first. They are the first ones to figure this out. So this past July, China has put major restrictions on all of their genetic data. And experts have come out and warning that this genetic hoarding of all this global research is going to actually make it more difficult for China, and he wished that the Chinese would understand that this could backfire on them. And a director for the Center of Global Science, who's Chinese, by the way, said the government wants to have a tight hand in this area, and they realize this is a huge economic potential, but China needs international collaboration to realize that potential.
Do you think other countries will agree?
Yeah, so all the other countries are like, you know, China, we have the scientists and we have the doctors, but you have all the data. And China's like, no. we have the data, but we're going to want to wait till we figure it out. And so, you know, the world right now is saying, you know, you shouldn't do this. You should really be like us, and you should be more open, and you should help, you know, and let's see if together we can figure this out. Because, you know, as I was reading this article, it's hard for me to explain just how valuable this genetic data is. Because they have like incredible data on everybody in the country. Like, it's really hard to believe. No other country has this.
Yeah, well, this is just a question. How did they do that? I mean, like having that over 1 billion already?
Yeah. So they have everybody. It's required. It's required of most people. You have to do this.
Well, although it's so simple. Okay. Oh, Eric, here is the thing. Fill it up. So something like that, maybe like, okay, fill this up. And you can just have everything in seconds, or I don't know. That's
I mean, I don't know what genetic testing entails. I don't know exactly what they do, whether they take a piece of skin or whatever it is. And but supposedly they have a database on everybody, just about everybody in China. And what the Western countries are saying is, you know, disease, pharmaceuticals, medical devices, birth defects. You know, who has the most birth defects? Of course, the biggest populated country. So they have genetic information on all these birth defects. How valuable is that? They just don't necessarily have all the doctors to be able to figure it out, or the research centers. So there's been kind of this clash going on between Western society and the Chinese about this subject.
Well, hopefully, in the future, I think it is really valuable, you know, having data of older people. I mean, who among other countries done that? I didn't hear anybody.
Yeah, I mean,
in America,
supposedly China is the leading, because it's not like it's not something like this. It's what they've done with the amount of people that they have.
Yeah.
The United States doesn't have anywhere near this. Neither do any of the European countries. They never. I mean, China's been doing this for decades. They've been building this and building because they see the economic value in being able to be the leader in genetic testing. And, like I said, if they come up with a drug that can do this or do that, and they're the only ones, I'm sure that when the pandemic came out, I mean, everybody wanted to be the first one to have the vaccine.
Yeah.
And look what that was worth.
Yeah. And I think, maybe the reason why they thought of that being they want to be number one in many things and maybe all things, because they're the biggest population in the world. Okay, now if they are number two now, but still, there are billions of, the population is so big that they need to do, what are they going to do? What something happened, like look what happened, the pandemic. All of a sudden, everybody's like, oh my God, what are we supposed to do? And even though they have the vaccine, but they were not able to cure their own people. People died.
Yeah, but we have no idea how many.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, but
we don't even. But I mean, think of it. Think of it this way. I mean, old age. We haven't figured out the cure for old age, but supposedly it exists.
Yeah.
That it's out there. They know that it can be done. They just don't have the right pieces in the puzzle. They can look at animals that live 200 years old, and they're like, we're not that far from that animal, so what is different? We need more genetic material of humans over a huge amount to be able to figure this out. So, like I said, if China would just share that information, that it might be possible that together they could figure out the cure for old age. But is China going to do that? As of last Wednesday, no, they are not. We are going to keep our information, and it's ours, and you have to figure out your own thing. So anyway, but on that note, we hope that one day China can figure this out before 𝗡𝗲𝘄𝘀 and Eric Lecain get too old.
Yeah.
So we can stop our aging process, so we can continue to do the World News Jam here on DZRJ and RJTV as we are running out of time. So for me, Eric Lecain and 𝗡𝗲𝘄𝘀, we've had such a fun time today talking about interesting stories going on around the world, and hopefully we will see everybody next Sunday at 7 p.m. right here on the World News Jam on DZRJ. So everybody out there, Please be safe, and we'll see you next week.
The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not